Hydraulic fracturing, better known as fracking, has the means and the ability to kill us. In this discussion, I will be going over what fracking is, how and what problems fracking can cause, and what we can do to stop it. Big gas companies are quick to say the benefits of fracking, but miraculously skip over all of the negatives. Let me first start by breaking down what fracking is. Fracking, officially known as hydraulic fracturing, is the process of drilling and injecting fluid into the ground at a high pressure in order to fracture shale rocks to release natural gas and oil inside. Fracking is widely popular in Texas, Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, Colorado, North Dakota, and Arkansas, and consists of multiple shale formations varying in size. EnergyFromShale.org states that the Marcellus Shale Formation in the northeastern United States is estimated to cover 95,000 square miles, range from 4,000 to 8,000 feet in depth, and may contain 410 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. Supporters of fracking will say that the Marcellus Shale Formation alone would create 280,000 jobs and produce over $6 billion in government revenue. While this revenue is nice to hear, what is actually happening at the drill sites and the effects on the nearby areas is quite different. According to dangersofracking.com, it can take anywhere from 1 to 8 million gallons of water to complete each fracturing job, which equates to an average of 400 tanker trucks to carry water and supplies to and from each site. The United States Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, estimated that 70 to 140 billion gallons of water are used to fracture 35,000 wells in the United States each year. This is approximately the annual water consumption of 40 to 80 cities, each with a population of 50,000 people. Today, there are roughly 500,000 active wells in the United States. The EPA also states that each well can be fracked on average 18 times. 500,000 wells fracked 18 times using 8 million gallons of water each equates to 72 trillion gallons of water. The water is then mixed with sand and other chemicals in order to create the fracture. The gas companies will say lines like, "The chemicals are so diluted that they only make up 8% of the mixture," and we'll use a nice little picture that looks like this. However, simple math shows that 0.8% can equate to 150,000 plus gallons of chemicals for each fracture and nearly 360 billion gallons across the country. Up to 600 chemicals are added to the mixture to include, but certainly not limited to, lead, uranium, mercury, radium, methanol, hydrochloric acid, and formaldehyde. Only 30 to 50% of that fluid mixture is recovered and is still left in the ground and is non-biodegradable. These chemicals eventually leak out and contaminate groundwater, as well as evaporate into the air, creating contaminated air, acid rain, and ground level ozone. Tests have shown that methane concentrates are 17 times higher in drinking wells near fracture sites. This water then goes into wells and flows into local towns and cities. There have been thousands of cases related to contaminated water. Take a look at this spreadsheet. It shows some of the top chemicals along with their side effects. All of these dots indicate a problem within the human body. They can cause problems with the skin, respiratory system, nervous system, immune system, developmental problems, and reproduction problems. Even with all of these problems, we knowingly allow companies to pump it into our ground. Pennsylvania Alliance for Clean Water and Air shows a list of 5,600 people and families who are currently suffering from adverse effects of fracking, and that's only those who are suffering from acute problems and have been seen and diagnosed by a doctor. Increase that tenfold for those who don't even know what's wrong and haven't been recorded yet. With all these problems, you'd think we'd have some harsh penalties and restrictions. I stated earlier that 600 or more chemicals are used to create the fractures. While some of these chemicals are basic knowledge, most companies manage to hide their true chemical mixture using what is known as trade secrets or confidential propriety. This provides a loophole allowing companies to not fully release what they are using. The EPA has what is known as the Toxins Release Inventory through Section 313 of their Environmental Planning and Community Right to Know Act. This inventory is a public database so people can see what is released in waste management activities. The EPA yearly issues a list of industries that have to report. Funny enough, oil and gas extraction companies aren't on there. The EPA made the decision because they don't see that the industry is a high enough priority. They also know that they can't handle all of the reporting. It would overwhelm their current system. They would rather ignore the problem than try to create a way to fix it. Let's go over some penalties for breaking the laws. A severe violation of the Oil and Gas Act has a maximum penalty of $25,000 per charge. By the word severe, I mean physical injury, illness, death of a person, major damage to private or public property that reflects an endangerment of the safety of others, and the loss of a source of public water supply due to the explosive nature of gas contamination. Severe damage to an area with special protection has a $10,000 fine. Special protection covers critical habitats of threatened or endangered species as well as state parks and forests. A $10,000 fine for hurting a national forest. For companies with a bad history of repeated offenses, a huge 10% maximum penalty can be assessed. However, companies with a good history can get a whopping 20% discount. In 2010, a company was fined $140,000 for spilling 250 barrels of fluid into a tributary. This fluid killed hundreds of fish, salamanders, and frogs that were under a special state program. One company was even received a $6,000 fine for spilling over 7 tons of material. The current fines don't even come close to covering the damage that is done. CEH.org states that there is currently a draft routing through Washington, D.C. of the Chemicals and Commerce Act. This act would add another special oil and gas industry loophole to federal environmental law by blocking states and localities from requiring the oil and gas industry to reveal the toxics they inject through the water table during hydraulic fracturing. The legislation would also prohibit states or localities from regulating or banning toxic chemicals used in the drilling and fracking process, such as benzene and diesel fuel. Currently, states can add additional regulations as they deem necessary for their communities. This act would preclude all of that. This is another way of the federal government trying to control what each state does. The EPA can't handle the workload now, and if they have the nation's people at their best interest, why would they even think about taking this on? Today, I discussed some important topics about hydraulic fracturing. I went over what fracking is, how and what problems it can cause, and some things that need to be changed with our current system. Allowing the current conditions to remain unchanged will result in massive problems for both nearby residents and our environment. It is time we start taking a stand and place humans and nature's importance over making money. Thank you.